At dinner, he leaned in and whispered to his colleague, "That fat pig disgusts me." They laughed. I didn't flinch. I didn't cry. I just smiled. Because 3 hours earlier, I opened a file that could destroy him. And 3 hours later, I did. The clink of silverware on ceramic was the only sound Adele made as she cleared the table, step by careful step. The others remained in the dining room, laughing softly, sipping wine, Lydia's voice a silvery trill over Marcus's deeper hum. From the kitchen doorway, Adele could hear them, just barely. She paused at the sink, plate suspended mid-air. Behind the swinging door, the tone shifted. Hushed now. Urgent. She moved closer. After the papers, she won't see it coming. The words landed like pebbles on still water, each one rippling wider. Her breath hitched. Her hands, now sticky with lemon tart crumbs, trembled slightly. Marcus's voice again, muffled but clear enough. "I'm done, Mom. She signs the transfer tomorrow. Then I'm gone." A slow, creeping chill crawled down her spine. Her ears rang in the silence between their phrases. "Lydia, she's too dumb to suspect anything. That house is yours. She's practically gift wrapping it." Adele stood frozen, a wine glass still in her right hand. She didn't realize her grip had loosened until the glass slipped from her fingers and shattered softly into the plush kitchen carpet. The sound didn't reach them. Her world contracted. Silence wrapped around her like wool soaked in ice. Marcus, her husband, her protector, once. She remembered him on one knee, in that ridiculous cardigan, vowing, "No one will ever hurt you again." Now his voice, older and cold, was a blade slicing through the illusion. She turned to the hallway mirror. Her reflection wavered, flushed cheeks, wide eyes, mouth slightly parted. A woman caught mid-collapse, not yet allowed to fall. But the fall did come, in silence. She crouched, her movements automatic, reaching for the broken glass like it were pieces of herself. A sharp shard bit into her palm, but she didn't flinch. Blood welled, stark and honest. It grounded her. "They underestimated me," she thought. "Let them." Her father's words drifted in, "A smart person strikes after the applause." Adele took a breath. Then another. She dabbed the blood with a paper towel, composed her face. The strategist awakened. By the time she walked back into the dining room, she was smiling. Marcus raised his glass. "To Mom," he said, arm around Lydia's shoulders. "The heart of this family." Adele clinked glasses. Her grip firm, her eyes cool. Lydia complimented the lemon tart. Adele smiled, "Of course I remember. It's your favorite." Every gesture from Adele now had double meaning. Every smile a calculation. She noticed Marcus's phone, screen down, always locked. She stored that away. His laptop was Face ID protected. She made note. As dinner wrapped, Marcus leaned in to kiss her cheek. She didn't flinch, but her eyes followed him to the hallway, tracking every move. Not with love. With leverage. Later that night, Adele stood alone in her bedroom, door locked behind her. She pulled out a small, leather-bound notebook. On the first page, she wrote, "Day 0 Marcus and Lydia betrayed me. No retaliation. Just strategy." She signed it with the name they'd both forgotten was hers long before marriage. A. Voss. Her pen paused. Then another line. "He doesn't know." It was already over the moment I heard that sentence. She closed the notebook, slipped it into the drawer beneath her winter scarves. Her phone buzzed faintly. She opened her contacts, scrolled to EC and typed, "Need to talk. It's happening." Then she turned off the light. What would you do if you heard your spouse planning your erasure, with their mother, under your roof? 6 years earlier, Adele had just been let go from a small nonprofit in D.C., a budget-cut casualty. The severance check was modest. The silence from her so-called friends, deafening. She remembered sitting in her car in the parking lot of Voss Enterprises, staring at her reflection in the rearview mirror, wondering if this temp interview was just another hollow hallway. Inside, the receptionist barely looked up. But he did. Marcus Voss. The eldest son of the founder. Confident, clean-shaven, suit too sharp for Wednesday. He intercepted her resume from the assistant's desk like it was a golden ticket. "You worked on microgrant strategy?" he asked. She nodded. He smiled, tilted his head. "I like that. Resourceful." Moments later, as she waited near the elevators, she heard a whisper behind her. She better not break the chair, someone muttered. Her ears burned. But then, Marcus's voice, loud and sure, cut through. That's not how we speak to professionals here. Apologize. The silence that followed was her first sip of relief in weeks. That afternoon, Marcus offered to take her to lunch, as an apology for the office's lack of class. She said yes. Of course, she said yes. He listened as she spoke about student debt, about loving numbers but hating corporate jargon, about carbs being her comfort. He didn't flinch. Instead, he said, real women have depth. Don't let the world tell you otherwise. At the time, it felt like sunlight. Later, she would realize it was stage lighting. The months that followed were gentle, calculated. Adele felt seen, noticed, valued. Marcus sent flowers to her cubicle on Mondays, white tulips, always. Notes written in looping, almost feminine cursive, "You deserve peace, Adele." He brought coffee without asking her order. Encouraged her to leave behind old friendships that didn't support her growth. "You don't need people who drain you," he'd say, touching her wrist. "Let's build something new." And slowly, she did. Haley's texts grew less frequent. Adele replied less and less. She blamed time zones, her new role, stress. Lydia Voss entered the picture like fine china, cold, polished, quietly judgmental. "She'll need refinement," Lydia once whispered during a holiday dinner. Adele remembered the clink of a fork pausing midair, Marcus pretending not to hear. She remembered Lydia critiquing her chewing, her posture. The way Adele sat, like a girl raised by diners. Marcus didn't defend her then. He only sipped his wine and changed the subject. Looking back, Adele saw it clearly. He never protected me from them. He was training me for them. There were small changes, subtle edits. Marcus encouraged her to cut sugar, join his gym. He complimented her in beige. "You look powerful in neutral," he said, tossing her bright green scarf aside one morning. She began to wear less color. Spoke less at dinners. Let him speak for her in boardrooms. When she tried to tell a joke, he'd finish the punchline early and laugh louder. One night, she overheard him on a call, tone sharp, clipped. "She's almost perfect. Just a few tweaks away." She confronted him. He kissed her forehead, said, "I just want you to be the best version of you." And she believed that. Then. Back then, she thought it was love. Now, she knew it was molding. The first crack came during dinner with Haley. Her only true friend from college. Haley stirred her drink and said, "He's building a cage with velvet walls." Adele laughed. Dismissed it. Called Marcus protective. Haley's expression dimmed. "That's how it starts," she said quietly. Weeks later, Adele had ghosted her entirely. At Marcus's urging, "You're evolving." She's stuck. Now, in the dim light of her study, Adele whispered aloud, "I lost Haley not because she left me. I locked the door and swallowed the key." She found an old journal in the back of a drawer. One page read, "I think I love him. I think I'm supposed to." She stared at the handwriting until it blurred. Have you ever confused comfort with control? Adele stood before the same mirror where she once tried on wedding dresses. The same ornate silver frame Marcus had insisted was timeless, not trendy. She remembered how he picked her gown, her shoes, even the guest list, "To relieve your stress," he'd said. She placed a palm flat against the glass. The woman staring back had sharper eyes, straighter shoulders, colder smile. "He didn't change," she murmured. "He just stopped pretending." She walked to the closet, pulled down an old album, wedding photos, engagement shots, the staged, candid moments. She began tearing them out, one by one, tossing them into the fireplace. Flames licked the edges, curling smiles into ash. Later, in her private study, she unlocked the bottom drawer of the tall filing cabinet. Inside sat a single envelope. It read, in Marcus's handwriting, "For when it breaks." She opened it. Her original employment file from Voss Enterprises. At the top, target candidate, internal placement, long-term asset strategy. They had planned it. From the beginning. She didn't flinch. She didn't cry. She picked up her phone, scrolled to the name Evelyn C. When the voice answered, Adele said simply, "It's time. Evelyn, I'm ready." Adele sat motionless on the edge of the bed, the midnight blue satin of her gown pooling at her feet like regret. The untouched glass of wine beside her caught the faint amber glow of the bedside lamp, casting shadows on the wall that danced like ghosts. The antique clock above the fireplace ticked, slow, deliberate, louder than her heartbeat. Each tick a wound, each second a betrayal counted in silence. Through the half-open door to the guest room, she saw Marcus sleeping. One leg out from under the covers, arm flung wide, mouth slightly open as he snored with the obliviousness of a man who believed he was safe. Adele didn't blink. She watched him breathe like one might watch a stranger. Her mind fixated on one word, heifer. Spoken so casually, so viciously. She hadn't heard that word in years. Not since her 14th birthday, when a boy in gym class said it loud enough for the locker room to hear. Her mother had said, ignore them. People like that don't matter. But it had mattered. It stayed. Some wounds don't bleed. They calcify. Has silence ever been your loudest response? The house was quiet when she stepped into the dining room, barefoot. The chairs were still out of place, the air faintly scented with lemon tart and smoke. She lit a single candle and opened her laptop. Her fingers hovered over the keys before typing. Exit, not escape. Item 1. Freeze access to all joint accounts. Item 2. Contact Evelyn. Subject line. I need the old files. She leaned back, eyes flickering toward the dark window. Somewhere in the house, Marcus exhaled in his sleep. Her father's voice came to her, crisp and calm, plan in silence. Win in daylight. She opened the drawer beneath the hutch and retrieved a red file folder. Inside were statements, trust documentation, and a separate investment account in her maiden name. Marcus never asked about it. Never knew to. He thought she was helpless. At 2:48 a.m., her phone buzzed. Adele didn't hesitate. She answered on the second ring. I was waiting for this call, Evelyn said. No surprise in her voice, just steel and softness wrapped into one. They spoke in code, the emergency protocol they'd designed years ago, just in case. Adele never believed she'd use it. But Evelyn had. I always knew it wasn't a matter of if, Evelyn said. Only when. Adele's voice cracked just once. Why didn't you warn me? You had to feel it, not hear it. There's no rescue for someone who hasn't chosen to leave. And just like that, the emotion receded. Replaced by resolve. Plan Indigo, Evelyn said. We begin with clean separation. And invisibility. Thank you, Adele whispered. Do you have someone who would believe you without question? Dawn seeped in slowly, its light stretching across the pale walls of the bedroom. Adele stood before the mirror, dressed in gray slacks and a white blouse. Practical. Unsentimental. She didn't see a victim, but she wasn't yet a warrior either. If I scream now, I lose, she told her reflection. If I move too fast, I alert them. She walked to Marcus's nightstand, picked up his phone. The Face ID blinked. Denied. Instead, she entered a date. Lydia's birthday. Unlocked. She scrolled quickly, emails, notes, documents. One file caught her eye, Exit Strategy Voss. She didn't open it, not fully, just screenshot it, sent it to her secure cloud, then logged out. The war had begun, but only one side knew it. She deleted the browser history, burned the password note, and cleared the temporary cache on her machine. Precision had no margin for carelessness. Marcus appeared in the doorway, rubbing his eyes. Did you sleep? He asked. Adele turned, smiled. Like a baby. He kissed her forehead, and she let him. Then she turned away, spine straight, gait calm, and headed to the kitchen. Sometimes, peace is just the breath before the explosion. Later that morning, she placed a small envelope into the outgoing mail tray. Inside was a flash drive, encrypted, labeled with a code name. Destination. A P.O. box registered under a different name. The return address wasn't hers. In her study, the candle had long burned out. Adele sat, shoulders relaxed, staring at the email inbox. A new message appeared. From Evelyn C. Subject. Phase 2. Body. Phase 2 can begin. Are you ready? Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. She didn't smile. She didn't cry. She simply typed, yes. Adele brushed her hair with slow, practiced strokes, each movement deliberate, silent. Her reflection was calm, almost too calm, the kind that comes from someone playing a role with precision. She folded her robe over a pair of silk pajamas, chosen not for comfort, but for implication. Soft pink, subtle neckline, feminine in a way she knew Marcus always noticed. She climbed into bed and adjusted the covers as though sleep might follow. It wouldn't. The bedroom door opened with a click. Marcus staggered in, reeking of whiskey, and something sweeter, unfamiliar, floral. His jacket hit the floor before he reached the bed. "You're finally dressing to flatter," he muttered with a smirk, undoing his cufflinks. Adele turned, a soft laugh escaping her lips like steam off a kettle. "You know what you like," she said gently. Internally, her voice was steel. "Every word I say is measured like a sniper's bullet." He collapsed onto the bed beside her, one arm flung across the pillows. Within minutes, the rhythm of his breathing slowed into drunken sleep. She lay beside him, eyes open, thoughts sharp. Ever played dumb just to stay safe in a room with someone dangerous? His phone lit up. Unlocked. She hesitated, 1 second, then another. Her fingers reached. A preview message glowed on the screen. "She doesn't suspect anything. Tomorrow's the day." Her pulse spiked, but her hand remained steady. She opened the thread, heart thudding against her ribs. Sender, Elise. More messages followed, casual, confident. "He says she's still clueless. The papers will be signed by noon." Adele took screenshots, her hands efficient, movements minimal. She emailed them to a hidden address she'd created months ago under the name Clara Bell. Then placed the phone back exactly where she found it. She leaned back against the headboard, squeezing her eyes shut, not from pain, but pressure. Her mother's voice returned. "The most dangerous thing a woman can do is pretend she doesn't know." She got out of bed and opened the bottom drawer of the nightstand. Hidden beneath an old novel was a leather-bound notebook marked "If." Flipping through it, she read the entries, dates, inconsistencies, patterns. Late arrivals, deleted call logs, financial shifts. Tonight, she added a new line. "Elise, 1:12 a.m. message confirms betrayal." This wasn't a fling. It was strategy. Years in the making. She stared at Marcus's sleeping face. His mouth twitched into a smirk even in rest. She thought about shaking him. Screaming. Demanding the truth. Instead, she closed the notebook and whispered inside her own mind, "He thinks I'm asleep. He has no idea I'm documenting his undoing." In the bathroom, candlelight flickered across the tiles. She washed her face, slowly, like someone cleaning away the remnants of a funeral. "This is not weakness," she said aloud. "This is reconnaissance." She retrieved a second notebook, the one Marcus had never seen, and began writing with careful strokes. Plan notes, Olive Branch Protocol. Review joint credit card transactions by 11 a.m. Contact Nora. Use Olive Branch as subject line. The pen scratched against the paper like it knew time was short. She returned to the bed and slid under the covers, careful not to stir him. His body heat pressed into her back. He mumbled, half asleep, "You always overthink. That's why no one wants to deal with you." Her breath caught. She whispered, more to herself than him, "Then why are you still here?" He didn't respond. She hadn't expected him to. She reached for her phone under the pillow and sent one word to Evelyn, Phase 2. No reply, but the read receipt blinked back at her. "I'll make sure he doesn't just lose me. He loses everything he built on me." Ever plotted your next move while lying next to the person who betrayed you? Her hand hovered inches above his chest, not to caress, but to feel. She counted the beats beneath her palm, slow and steady. Not for comfort, just to mark the seconds he had left. Her phone vibrated. A new message from Evelyn. "You're not the only one being watched. Be careful." Adele leaned in, kissed Marcus lightly on the cheek, and watched him pull out of the driveway, his car disappearing into the Saturday haze. Her lips curved faintly, but her spine stayed straight. The moment the gate closed behind him, she exhaled. A controlled breath, nothing wasted. Inside her parked car, the dashboard reflected back only silence. No missed calls, no alerts, just the blinking cursor of time moving forward. Morrison's Cafe welcomed her with polished mahogany and quiet jazz, its elegance understated but deeply comforting. Her heels clicked softly on the marble floor, every step deliberate. Nora was already there, seated in the farthest velvet booth, her eyes flicking to the door with every opening. She hadn't changed much, same structured haircut, same sharp jawline, but now with wariness etched into her expression. Adele slid into the booth. You look like you've been preparing for this since 2013, she said, voice low, even. Nora gave a brief, knowing smile. You'll want facts, not feelings. Their hands met in a firm, silent clasp over the table. Not warmth, but recognition. Have you ever felt safer telling someone the truth than hiding it? Nora unzipped the leather folder between them. Spreadsheets, asset records, a notarized statement. Step 1. Hide your assets in plain sight, she said, sliding a USB across the table. Step 2. Collect silent leverage. Adele picked up the drive marked Voss, exit strategy. Her fingers tightened around it. Her father's voice echoed. Fear hides in chaos, control lurks in documents. Nora continued, Plan Indigo is active. Evelyn briefed me last night. The lawyer in Austin is ready. Name's Thomas Reed. And he'll take our call? Adele asked. He's expecting it, Nora replied. He doesn't play games. When was the last time you trusted someone with everything you own? A shadow passed across Nora's face. Her gaze shifted to the entrance. Camille. 12 o'clock, she murmured. Adele didn't turn immediately. Instead, she sipped her tea, slowly. But her mind sharpened. The daughter of Lydia Voss, Marcus's sister, was here. Of all the cafes in downtown San Antonio, today. She sees you, Nora added. Let her, Adele said, setting her cup down. It's time they all started wondering what I know. They didn't flinch. They didn't rush. They simply finished their conversation, exchanged final words. Nora handed her a card. Call when ready. I'll open the door. Adele stood, smoothed her dress, and walked out with her head high, the sun hitting her face like a spotlight on truth. Outside, the Texas heat pressed against her skin. Nora lingered, then gave a short nod before turning away. The hug they exchanged was brief, but for Adele, it marked the end of silence and the beginning of something larger. Driving home, she made mental lists. Thursday, Marcus signs. Friday, file transfer. Saturday? She didn't get that far. Yet. Marcus's phone buzzed. A new message. You forgot to lock the car? Adele. He stared at it, brow furrowed. Inside her head, Adele whispered, You don't just walk into the lion's den. You build the door. You hold the key. What's your secret meeting been afraid to have? Back at the estate, Adele opened the garage and retrieved the black case she had stashed months ago. She carried it into the kitchen, set it down on the marble island. The label, for emergency use only. Click. Inside, old camera files, time-stamped recordings of conversations, suspicious invoices, duplicates of shared bank statements, a burner phone with logs going back 5 years, and, most importantly, a faded notebook with Haley Quinn scrawled across the cover. She thumbed through the pages. Messages Haley had warned her to read. Too late back then, right on time now. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. Everything they thought they hid I hold in one case. Her phone blinked alive. Flash notification. Location. Marcus, boardroom, Project Phoenix, live stream starting. The garage light flickered as Adele stepped inside, fresh from Morrison's, her mind slicing through possibilities like a knife through lace. But the black SUV in her driveway wasn't one of them. Her heart paused. The front door was slightly ajar. Inside, standing like a shadow made flesh, was Thomas Reed, sharp suit, expression graver than usual, a folder gripped tight in one hand. You're early, Adele said, closing the door behind her without breaking eye contact. He held up the folder. We found more than we expected. In that moment, the foyer transformed. The house was no longer hers alone. It was a battlefield now, and Thomas Reed had just crossed the threshold with live ammunition. When someone you trust shows up with bad news, do you fear the truth, or the silence before it? She poured 2 glasses of water and led him into the study. No pleasantries, no seat offered, just readiness. He opened the folder. High-res images. Marcus. In a parking garage. Nighttime. Arm around a woman Adele instantly recognized from a company's website, Elise Consulting LLC. Another page. A bank transfer. Marcus wiring money to the same LLC, memo line, exit funds. Elise, Adele murmured. The name had surfaced before, on his phone in the dead of night. Thomas nodded grimly. This alone could change everything. But this, He reached into his briefcase, pulling out a flash drive. Is what you need to see. The label read, Voss Forge. She didn't need to ask. It was the forgery theory they'd whispered about for years. A paper trail of altered contracts, duplicated signatures. She hadn't dared believe it existed. They didn't just plan to remove me, Adele said, voice low. They planned to rewrite history. She recalled something a corporate fraud investigator once told her. In every scandal, the paper trail never lies. Have you ever held the proof you needed, and realized you were the only one brave enough to use it? She stood at the window. The city outside blinked with indifference, its skyline unaware of the storm brewing behind her eyes. Holding the flash drive in her palm, she tapped her phone and began recording a voice memo. Her voice was calm but edged in steel. If anything happens to me, open the folder labeled, Voss Truth. Share it with Nora Blake and Evelyn Crane. Do not wait. She thought of Haley Quinn, how she once warned, don't wait for someone else to fight your war. She sent the memo through a burner phone, scrubbed the data, wiped her digital prints. Thomas nodded, watching her. You're not reacting, he said. I'm not responding, she corrected. I'm acting. If you had to leave a recorded message for your future self, what would it say? Thomas leaned in. Trade press is sniffing around the Voss group. Someone's feeding them intel. Adele's pulse quickened. Leak? Not yet, Thomas said. But Marcus's PR team is already nervous. Lydia's gone silent. Camille locked her social feed. He lowered his voice. We could drop the photo. Hit first. No, Adele said. Let them move. Then we hit where it hurts. They opened a secure feed. Marcus appeared on screen, suave, smiling during a board Q&A, unaware he was pacing atop a legal minefield. Adele studied his every blink. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. Ever been in the room when the ground started shifting beneath someone else? By nightfall, Adele returned to the garage. She opened the black carrying case, the one marked for emergency use only. She slotted the flash drive into a compartment labeled Phase 1, locked. Her phone buzzed. Nora's reply, it's live in 48 hours. Prep your story. Just as she turned to close the case, her phone vibrated again. Unknown number. She answered, voice steady. Adele Voss speaking. The line crackled. Then came a breath. Heavy. Intentional. You should have taken the first offer, the voice rasped. Adele placed the phone on the counter. She exhaled. Too late now. The elevator chimed and opened onto the 22nd floor of Reed & Crane. Adele stepped out dressed in black, no jewelry, no flair, just sharp lines and clean cuts. Her hair was pinned tightly, her heels muted on the carpeted floor. She walked past reception. No one made eye contact. Whispers had already started. Everyone had heard about the Voss file. Thomas met her at the glass door, his jaw tense. A third man waited behind him, Arthur Lee, senior partner, infamous in San Antonio's legal circles for never losing a corporate war. Adele, this is Arthur. He'll lead the asset strategy, Thomas said. She nodded once. No smile. No handshake. They sat in the conference room under fluorescent lights. Legal pads covered the table. A faint smell of burnt coffee hovered in the air. Arthur slid a summary forward. Forged signatures, diversion of trust funds, emotional coercion patterns, all supported by digital and photographic evidence. Thomas added, we can win. But it'll cost your name. She didn't flinch. Names rebuild. Dignity doesn't. Ever realized the most powerful person in the room isn't the loudest, but the one taking notes? Arthur launched into the playbook. File a preemptive injunction, lock all shared assets, transfer primary ownership of the charitable foundations. Don't file yet, Adele interrupted, voice smooth as steel. Let him think he still owns the board. They paused. Her tone had shifted, no longer pleading or cautious. It was deliberate, surgical. Control isn't about the first move. It's about timing. Silence hurts more when they lean in expecting applause. Thomas nodded, eyebrows raised. You're baiting him. Exactly, she said. Make him overconfident. Let him show his whole hand. They created a dual-layer calendar, codenamed Phase Gray. Half real, half disinformation to confuse Voss Group's internal watchdogs. She signed 3 documents, initials precise. Her hand didn't shake. She remembered how it had, years ago, when she'd signed the marriage certificate. Arthur watched her. "You've done your homework." "Sun Tzu," she replied. "Appear weak when you are strong. When you've been underestimated, did you stay quiet, or start writing your victory plan?" Later that morning, she met her new financial advisor downtown. She authorized the closing of all joint accounts, transferred personal funds to new instruments, and set up a pair of nonprofits, one of which mirrored the name of Lydia's beloved foundation. Except now, she owned it. Her phone rang. Lydia's voice crackled. "You're making a mistake, darling. This family built you." Adele stared out the window. "Then it's poetic that I'm the one deconstructing it." She hung up without waiting for a response. Every signature tonight is a quiet rebellion. By mid-afternoon, the transactions were done. Adele sipped her coffee and signed a final form without hesitation. The paperwork wasn't a burden anymore, it was a blueprint for revenge. She returned to Reed and Crane at dusk. Final asset transfer to a temporary charitable trust under her maiden name sat on the table. Thomas cautioned, "Once this is processed, you're no longer protected by marriage laws. Marcus is legally powerless, but so are you until we revert." She stared at the signature line. "My father used to say, control isn't possession. It's direction." She signed. The pen scraped. Ink dried slow. "You just burned the last bridge," Thomas said quietly. Adele looked up. "Good. Now they can't follow me." In the background, the contract remained in sharp focus while her figure blurred in the shallow depth of field, a visual metaphor of the woman transforming behind it. "Would you risk everything you built, just to finally own yourself?" Night settled. Adele exited into the heat of Texas air. Sunlight bounced off the mirrored towers. She felt no guilt, no pride, only equilibrium. She deactivated her social media, deleted every tagged photo, replaced her SIM card, and walked into a small rented office above a bookstore downtown. Her voice echoed in the empty room as she raised a glass of water. "To no one," she whispered. Phase Gray complete. Back at Reed and Crane, Thomas's inbox pinged. A confidential email. No sender. Subject line: "She's not the only one moving her assets." Adele turned into the long driveway, her mind still half in the conversation she'd just left behind with a client. Her eyes snapped up when she spotted two unfamiliar trucks and three movers lifting a leather armchair she hadn't authorized anyone to touch. Then she saw it. The sign staked into her lawn, red letters loud against the whiteboard: "Sold." Marcus stepped out from the porch like a host greeting a guest, not a husband confronting his wife. "We needed liquidity," he said smoothly, brushing imaginary lint from his cuff. "I thought you'd understand." Adele didn't reply. She simply watched as one of the movers hammered the stake deeper into the ground. With each pound, her memories flared: morning coffee on that porch, painting the nursery upstairs, late-night fights followed by colder silences. "The four walls I wore like armor are now auctioned off like clearance stock." Have you ever watched your safe place become a negotiation piece? Inside, the air had changed. It smelled like packing tape and fresh plaster. The floors echoed more than usual, as if the house itself had started emptying out before the furniture did. Marcus led her into the family room where the fireplace still stood, stripped of everything except a plain silver frame. Inside it, their wedding photo. It looked like it belonged in a discount bin. "I'll move you somewhere smaller," Marcus said, with mock concern. "Less upkeep, fewer rooms. You'll appreciate it." Adele gave him a cool look. "Fewer rooms?" she repeated. "I've been living in one for months." His jaw tightened, but he forced a thin smile. "I don't want conflict. Conflict isn't what I want. Clarity is." She caught a detail, subtle but calculated. The garage door's keypad had been reset to her old passcode. A gesture of control masked as nostalgia. She locked the new code in her mind, no emotion on her face. "When your partner offers help, did you accept or suspect?" She excused herself, heading to the kitchen. Under the island, the black case waited. She opened it quietly and pulled out the Phase Gray monitoring folder. Inside were movement reports, bank transfers, real estate records, her roadmap. She texted Nora without ceremony. "Garbage box assembly in 20 minutes. Meet me." Just then, Camille walked in, her perfume arriving a beat before her smile. She carried a paper bag and set it gently on the counter. Lunch for Marcus. Adele didn't blink. How thoughtful. I'm living the scene they wrote for me, but I hold the pen. When your moves look normal, are they your routine or their script? Later, the home office sat in quiet tension. Adele stood near the doorframe, just out of sight. Marcus's voice floated from inside, directed toward the speakerphone. Yes, Chloe, bring the board minutes. We're selling the house outright. A pause. Lydia answered, crisp and pleased. Perfect. Make sure Adele's name is off the trust. Keep it clean. Adele hit record on her burner phone app. She didn't flinch. The betrayal didn't slice, it landed like a gavel. Final. In the reflection of the office glass, she saw Lydia in the hallway, a ghost watching the fallout of her own design. Maya Angelou once said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. She logged the file under Chapter 8, Undercut, and sent it directly to Thomas. The sale had erased her. Her name, gone. Her voice, assumed silent. But she wasn't silent. Would you save the proof of someone's betrayal, for when they expect silence? By the time dusk settled, Adele stood by her car with a suitcase and no second thoughts. The house behind her glowed gold in the windows, like a painting too perfect to be real. The sold sign gleamed under the yard lights. She opened the door, slid behind the wheel. One last look. Not of longing, but recognition. I didn't lose a home, she whispered. I lost their version of me. The engine hummed to life. Headlights carved a path through the quiet street. Her phone buzzed. GPS. Destination, P.O. Box 713 San Antonio. Message received. Phase 2 activated. Adele didn't smile. She didn't have to. The morning haze over San Antonio clung to the windshield as Adele parked outside the nondescript building that housed P.O. Box 713. The sign above the door read, Sierra Parcel and Legal Courier, and if someone passed by, they'd think she was there for a lost package, not to ignite the next phase of war. Inside, the clerk handed her a manila envelope without speaking. No signature required. Inside it, a single key, a folded map with a red circle drawn near the edge of the historic district, and a short printed line, Phase 2 is where they forget who you were. Her fingers closed around the key, and she exhaled once. Later that day, Adele stood in front of a modest, abandoned brick building with dusty windows and a faded mural peeling from the back alley wall. The place once housed a record shop, then a pawn store, now just dust and echo. She walked in. Floorboards groaned under her heels. No staff, no ghosts, just a shell, perfect. By late afternoon, a team arrived. Quiet, efficient. Painters, locksmiths, a single interior designer who didn't ask questions. They brought warmth in tones of muted greens, strong oak furniture, soft rugs that muted footsteps, intentional. Adele's instructions had been precise. Every sound needed to disappear. While they worked, she sat on the windowsill with her tablet. A live feed streamed from her burner phone camera, still placed inside the old Voss estate. She watched Lydia scold Camille over the phone in a barely concealed panic. Marcus, in the background, was pacing. You said she'd fold, Lydia snapped. She's gone rogue. Marcus muttered, she always had claws. I just didn't think she'd sharpen them. Adele closed the stream. If they're still quoting you in your absence, you haven't left. You've multiplied. She turned her focus to the wall beside her, already marked with sticky notes. Timelines, legal points, whispers. A photo of Haley Quinn pinned in the center, surrounded by dots and threads. For every name they erased, I'll resurrect 3 more truths. Viewer Q. What would you do if your silence became their greatest liability? As the sun dropped, Adele sat across from Nora at a corner table in a nearby diner. Nora pushed a folder across. Phase 2, Media Draft, Whistleblower Exposure Matrix, and she lowered her voice, we found something else. Camille's real bank account, not the one Marcus set up. Offshore. Cayman. It's under your name. Adele didn't blink. Good. Let her hide behind me. When the walls collapse, I want her front and center. Nora hesitated. You're not angry? I'm done with anger. I'm rebranding it. Internal monologue. Fury isn't fire. It's focus with a deadline. Back at the new hideout, Adele opened the Voss Truth drive on her encrypted laptop. The files unfolded like dominoes. falsified board minutes, off-record transfers, call logs with key phrases flagged, sunset clause, deliberate removal, exit package. She uploaded them, segment by segment, to her private server. With each click, she whispered a name: Haley, Evelyn, that silent intern who once cried in the bathroom stall while Lydia dismissed her like a smudge. Viewer Q. If you could make justice visible, who would you start with? At midnight, a knock. One soft tap. 2 beats. One soft tap again. Adele opened the door. Thomas stood there, not in a suit this time, but jeans and a neutral jacket. He handed her a burner flip phone. It's happening. The audit team is inside Marcus's firm. They're not smiling. Adele simply nodded. And the trust? Thomas smiled faintly. Frozen. He'll find out by breakfast. And when he does, he'll scream, but not in a room that matters anymore. She leaned against the doorframe. Did Lydia call? She's trying to. He raised an eyebrow. I told her you were unreachable. Adele closed the door behind him. In the quiet of her new space, she poured a glass of cold water, added a single ice cube, and raised it again like a toast. To phase 3, she murmured. Then her phone lit up with an anonymous alert. Surveillance breached, someone's retracing your steps. Her eyes narrowed. She shut the laptop. The ghosts weren't gone. But now, they were following her. The Texas sun hadn't yet crested the horizon when Adele stood in front of her rented office building, key turning in the new lock like a countdown. The office still smelled of fresh paint and lemon cleaner, unlived in, unnoticed. Exactly how she needed it. Inside, everything had a place: 3 chairs, 2 screens, 1 desk. Simplicity is camouflage. Her laptop blinked to life with the quiet hum of focus. On screen, the surveillance breach alert still pulsed in red. She opened the encryption log. IP trace, 3 cities. 2 of them noise, 1 of them not, Washington, D.C. That's when the knock came. Not the courier's tap, not Thomas's cadence. This one was firm, methodical. 2 men in dark gray suits, badges flashed faster than names could be remembered. Ms. Adele Voss? We'd like a moment of your time. It concerns an open investigation into wire fraud and identity tampering. Her pulse didn't spike. Her eyes didn't flinch. She stepped back, held the door. Then come on in. I've been expecting shadows with fancier shoes. They didn't smile. Inside, the taller one introduced himself as Agent Wilkes. The other said nothing, just opened a slim black folder and slid it across the desk. Photos, some familiar, some not. Camille exiting a hotel. Marcus on a call with Lydia. A digital receipt. Cayman Islands. Her name listed beside it. Looks like you're at the center of something big, Ms. Voss, Wilkes said. Care to explain why your name is tied to an unregistered foreign account? She leaned forward, calm. Why don't you ask Marcus Voss? Or Camille Brighton? Or Lydia Voss, who signed off on the Cayman Trust years before I ever opened a bank app? Wilkes studied her. That's not a denial. It's a direction, she said evenly. You're either here to arrest me or listen. Choose wisely. He paused. We're here to prevent a media disaster. Something tells me you're about to start one. Adele's voice didn't rise. I didn't start anything. I'm just finishing a chapter they hoped I'd never read. Viewer Q. If someone knocked on your door with suspicion, would you open it with fear or facts? Wilkes finally slid the photos back into the folder, but not before tapping one. You were married to a very connected man. That still counts for something. She smiled for the first time. It used to count for everything. Now it just counts against him. They left. No cuffs. No warning. Just quiet tension in their wake. Later that afternoon, Adele met Thomas in a parking garage beneath a bank. It felt clandestine, like the cold thrill of a spy novel, but here, it was just survival. They know, she said. Thomas didn't ask who. He simply replied, how bad? They think I'm orchestrating the money trail. But the trail was written by Marcus and Camille. And now they're trying to burn it while I'm still standing on it. Thomas handed her a burner flash drive. Then we give them a second trail. The real one. She slid it into her pocket. And if it leads to someone they're protecting? Then we remind them that cover-ups don't come cheap. Evening came with the sound of rain slicking downtown streets. Adele sat alone in her new office, watching the news scroll across muted screens. No mention of the Voss family. Yet. But the stock ticker told another story, Voss holdings dropping. Silent panic behind closed boardroom doors. Then her phone lit up. A single message from Evelyn. He's filing an injunction against your whistleblower protection. He's trying to silence you before you go public. Adele didn't react. She turned back to her screen, opened a file labeled Public Insurance, and attached 3 documents to a scheduled email blast. Countdown. 18 hours. Viewer interaction. When they try to bury your voice, do you scream, or publish receipts? Night deepened. She stood by the window as the city lights reflected her silhouette back at her. Somewhere out there, Marcus was still playing chess. But Adele? She was breaking the board. Behind her, the surveillance feed flickered, static, then motion. A dark figure stood outside the Voss estate's gate. Not Marcus. Not Lydia. Someone else. Her breath stilled. The ghosts weren't just watching. They were walking toward her. The morning air was thick with something heavier than humidity. It carried the kind of silence that comes before things break. Adele sat alone in a folding chair near the front row of a small chapel in Alamo Heights. No flowers, no music, just a framed black and white photo on a stand. Hayley Quinn, smiling, alive in a way that felt distant now. 6 people attended. Not one of them was Marcus. Adele didn't cry. She couldn't. Not here. Not now. The woman beside her, a librarian from the university, whispered, "She always said you were the brave one." Adele simply nodded, eyes forward. As the minister closed his prayer with awkward efficiency, Adele stood and walked to the photo. She placed a single key beside it. The same key Hayley had once pressed into her hand. "When it all crashes, open the red box," she'd said. Adele never opened it, until last night. Inside the box, USB drives. Letters. A printed spreadsheet titled, Whistle Patterns, Voss Legal, Q3. Hayley had documented every call, every asset transfer, every time Marcus's name appeared on confidential memos. Viewer Q. If you found proof of everything you feared, would you grieve or get to work? Back at her office, Adele loaded the contents onto her secure system. The drives weren't just data, they were a roadmap. One folder was labeled, Asset Diversion, Lydia's Side. Another simply, Camille, the basement tapes. Her hands hovered. She clicked. Voices. Muffled. A hallway camera, inside the Voss estate. Camille and Marcus, speaking low and fast. "She's going to run. We don't let her. We give her something to run into." Adele leaned back, stunned by the precision of their setup. They hadn't just pushed her out, they'd engineered her collapse. And Hayley had seen it. Tried to stop it. The screen blinked with a new message. Files synced to Thomas, Evelyn, Nora. Phase 3 ready. She picked up her phone and called Evelyn. "We're not just leaking," Adele said. "We're litigating in public. No more back channels." Evelyn didn't hesitate. "Then let me get dressed for war." By noon, the media had the first batch of redacted files. Not from Adele's office. From a university server, tied to Hayley's student login. Let them try to erase the dead. Adele stood at a crosswalk downtown as headlines scrolled across nearby TV screens in a bar window. Whistleblower files linked to Voss Holdings. Anonymous insider names Camille Brighton in forgery scheme. Alumni watchdog site posts explosive allegations from deceased student. And still, silence from Marcus. That afternoon, Thomas called with urgency. "You need to come now." She met him at the courthouse steps. He didn't say a word, just handed her a copy of the filing. Marcus Voss versus Adele Voss. Emergency motion for gag order and defamation damages. She read it once, twice. "He's trying to shut the grave before we open the coffin," she muttered. Thomas. He filed it under seal. "The judge is on the board at Voss Foundation." That stopped her. "He's pulling every old string left." Adele turned to face the wide marble doors of the courthouse. "Then we cut them in daylight." Inside, they filed their own motion. With attachments. With names. By early evening, Marcus's legal team tried to delay a hearing. The judge refused. A press leak? Deliberate. By Adele? No. Nora. Nora had published a pre-written obituary titled, The Funeral of Silence, Hayley Quinn and the Cost of Secrets. A posthumous voice speaking louder than any living one. Viewer interaction. When the dead speak louder than the living, do you listen or look away? That night, Adele stood again before Haley's photo, now at her office desk. She lit a small candle, let it burn low. I didn't get to save you, she whispered. But you're going to save me. Cliffhanger. On her phone, a voicemail appears. Unread. Unknown number. She plays it. A familiar voice. Breathy. Hesitant. I think you're in danger. They're not after your money anymore. Pause. Click. They're coming for your name. The morning didn't rise gently, it snapped open with the blare of sirens down the block. Adele didn't flinch. She was already awake, seated at her desk in her rented downtown office, the whistleblower drive blinking quietly in the laptop's port. Her phone rang. It was Evelyn. They've filed with the state bar. Allegations of fraud, ethical misconduct, tax evasion. They want to revoke your license. Adele stared straight ahead. They're making it look like Haley gave them the dirt. Evelyn's voice cracked. They submitted documents claiming Haley was your source for falsified trust filings. They even used her student credentials. She's not alive to refute it, Adele said flatly. That's the whole point. But she was ready. She opened the folder titled Haley_failsafe, a pre-recorded video of Haley sitting in her dorm room, timestamped 3 weeks before her death. If you're seeing this, it means they used my name to bury you. Don't let them. Haley had named names. Camille, Marcus. A third, Judge Ray Halton. The same judge on Marcus's emergency gag order. Viewer Q. If the person who loved you most set a trap for the people who destroyed them, would you spring it? Adele uploaded the video to 3 outlets, one legal watchdog blog, one university alumni forum, and a viral advocacy page tied to whistleblower rights. Then she made the call. Nora, today we burn it all down. By mid-afternoon, Haley's face was everywhere. Headlines ignited. Deceased student whistleblower leaves bombshell posthumous confession. Judge Halton under ethics review after named in video leak. Marcus Voss's wife fights back with evidence from the dead. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, law students, bloggers. Marcus arrived late, flanked by his legal team in dark suits and empty eyes. His smile didn't reach his eyes. The judge tried to silence Adele. She stood anyway. This court is being asked to decide whether my voice belongs to me, or whether it can be bought, erased, and rewritten. Thomas handed over the unsealed documents Haley left behind. Evelyn followed with banking records, including a personal wire from Lydia to Judge Halton's foundation. The courtroom buzzed like a hornet's nest. And Marcus? He cracked. Outside, on the courthouse steps, Nora live-streamed the first wave of public reaction. Elderly women posted quotes from Haley. Veterans from Adele's old law program offered to fund her legal defense. A high school teacher emailed her, "Your silence would have helped them sleep. Thank you for shouting." Later that evening, Adele stood in her now empty former office. No furniture. Just the red box Haley had left behind and the last envelope she hadn't opened. Inside, a deed. A small cottage near Blanco River. In Adele's name. Paid in full. Haley had signed it over weeks before she died. Scrawled in her handwriting. A place where no one rewrites your name. Go build it. Adele whispered into the silence, "I will." As she stepped outside, a gentle Texas wind kicked up the edges of the envelope. Behind her, the courthouse lights glowed, still crowded, still roaring. Ahead, nothing but trees and the river. The final voiceover. They came for my name. But it was never theirs to own. Now, I write the rest of the story.